Hi, this is Scott Sustachek, your host for CEO to CEO, the podcast from the CEO Roundtable. CEO Roundtable is a peer-to-peer organization that brings business leaders together to share wisdom, experience, and insights from the trenches. Today's episode is sponsored by IntroWorks, launching powerful B2B brands for more than 30 years. Learn more about them at intro.works. Doing good and doing well. 5 really simple words, but when you put them in context with the great game of business, adds a whole degree of complexity and challenges to a business owner and a CEO. And I'm really excited to be here with Teresa Fudenberg today, who is CEO of Storm Creek, and really the author of the reinvention of the Storm Creek brand. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And how she has really married up doing good and doing well and built it into a very strong growth business. Teresa, welcome. And
thank you.
I'm glad you're here with us.
I'm super glad to be here.
I want to just talk a little bit about Teresa's background to give our audience a little better perspective of really where you've been and what you've done. As CEO of Storm Creek, you lead the company's business and brand strategy with clear mission to create sustainable, high-performing apparel that gives back. Prior to Storm Creek, you owned a marketing and business strategy firm, helping growth stage companies bring their brand visions to life. And in 2014, you joined forces with your husband, Doug Jackson, and really started the reinvention of the Storm Creek brand, transforming it into a purpose-driven promotional product supplier known for premium products, sustainability, and social impact. And there's a lot to unpack in that last sentence.
There sure is. As a matter of fact, we finally have a really simple elevator pitch, and we say better product for the greater good. And that's been like 10 years in the making. You should have seen how overly complex we tried to make it. But some action-packed words for sure.
Well, and under your leadership, Storm Creek has won a bevy of awards here. WBENC Certified Women-Owned Business. And this is the one that was eye-catching to me when you sent it over, but you've repurposed over 50 million plastic bottles.
That's right.
That's a mind-boggling number.
And it should be probably 65 million by the end of this year.
What's your target to hit 100? That can't be too far away then.
Well, I'll give you a sneak peek of that when we talk about the 10-year target.
All right, sounds good. You've donated more than $2.75 million in product and cash to local and national causes. That's outstanding. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
The company's also been recognized as an industry best places to work. Teresa was named to the 2024 ASI Counselor Power 50 list, honored with the 2023 Best Cone Humanitarian Award for your unwavering commitment to giving back, and recognized as a 2024 Entrepreneur of the Year finalist for Ernst Young. Mm-hmm. So that's, your wall is full of awards here. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We're going to talk with a passionate and strategic leader. You continue to drive the growth of Storm Creek, and as a trusted and value-led partner in promotional product industry. Wow, what a story. I mean, we can almost be done with this already, but there's so much more to talk about.
There is. And, you mentioned the promotional products industry, and that's really been our leading industry. And I think while we sell to retailers and we sell directly to the consumer, I think that's the industry that we really shine in as it relates to other CEOs. Right. Because the listeners of this podcast are putting a lot of dollars toward things that they procure, and apparel might be one of them. And that's just one way they can do well, is if they connect up with a supplier that is aligned with their goals, and we help advance whatever their mission is by what we're doing.
So I want to go back to this doing good and doing well. And when did you come upon that as really your vision for what this company could be?
Wouldn't it be cool if I said, well, we wrote this business plan and it's exactly how it all worked? But I'd love to tell you kind of the backwards way that it happened. But it was always this foundation of, Doug and I met in 2013, and we really realized that we have a lot in common in terms of just our DNA of wanting to give back and feeling really blessed on the companies we've owned in the past and the ability to give back if it's a profitable company. So that was already aligned, and we were dabbling and doing little things like having a warehouse sale and giving profits to charity and donating a lot to different organizations, donating mind and a lot to apparel. And then a funny story that kind of relates to the CEO Roundtable is a colleague of mine, Mary Nutting. COVID hit, and we literally got on the phone and we were talking, and she said, TK, it seems like you should be doing something about this. And I was like, well, okay, we're 2 weeks into this. Our sales have gone down 90%, and we have we don't know what our future is. And you want me to just start taking care of this and giving away a bunch of apparel? And she said, it seems like something you would do. So we literally created our first kind of foray to this. We created a do-gooders committee, because, we needed something to focus on. And so we ended up doing this really cool buy one, give one to frontline heroes. You would buy a quarter zip, and we would give one at our cost with our handwritten note to your frontline hero in Boston, your sister's a nurse, whatever. We ended up gifting like over 1,000 pieces of apparel to uplift people who were working on the front lines.
Wow.
Around I think every state in the country and some internationally. So what did I do when we're 90% down? I started giving things away. So it's funny when it's baked into your DNA that it isn't that you only give when the getting is good. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we did a lot during that time. So focus on 2021. We are offsite. We run on EOS, so we were doing our 10-year target and planning what that was going to be. And so we're like, at the end of 2030, what do we want to have happened? And you immediately go to how much you want to be in terms of revenue size,
Right.
profits, that kind of thing. And we said, hey, we're on this giving roll, right? We're on this giving roll, so let's put a number to it. Hey, if we kept giving at the rate we're giving and doing what we're doing, we probably could give like $2 million by 2030. And the man I happen to be married to says, that's stupid. Let's do 5. So we kind of gasped, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. And so that was kind of when it was stated, and it was super exciting to come back and share the VTO with the whole team and not have it be about that. And
Right.
just by stating that and putting it out there, it's like everything started falling into place, and that just, it came to life from there.
That's impressive. So you really use the business challenge of the pandemic when things were not looking great, and you're like, you get an idea from Mary. I love Mary. She's been on the podcast.
Yes.
So, and you're off and running with something that has really transformed, I think, probably who you are and how you go about your
It
business.
absolutely has, because another component of that was 2020. We had made a commitment in 2017 to start introducing recycled materials to all of our product, but we said by the end of 2020, everything will have a sustainably made component, if not all sustainably made. So we committed to that, also finishing that during COVID. And so that coming together on how we make the product better and more sustainable, and then the giving component, it was just staring us in the face as this is who we are.
Right. How was the market response to that? So as you start coming out with those things to your customers and clients, how do they react?
Well, at first it seemed like they weren't caring, but then I realized, oh, remember, I like to build those brands. I don't think I was doing a good enough job behind the microphone. We were so entrenched in it, I was forgetting to get and shout from the mountaintops about it.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was actually about a year later, and I was on a morning show here in town, and we were talking about something. And I don't know what I said. As I said, we're going to give our $5 million to charity by 2030. I don't even know how it came out, because I figured if I didn't say it out loud, maybe if it didn't work, it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And so then it was a groundswell. They went nuts, and they're like, do you work this into all of your messaging and tell all of your customers and get them involved and get your employees involved? And I'm like, mm-hmm. And we do now.
Yeah.
So it took a while almost to get some legs around it, but it is absolutely what we're known for.
So part of this too, to me, feels like it was a cultural transformation for the business. And maybe you already had those kind of people that felt that, but my thought would be that as you really got clarity over who you are and where you were going, that it started to attract a different kind of person to the company, different set of talent.
And there's no doubt about it. We, like everybody, had recruiting challenges. And by the way, we've always been on site, so add that layer in. And we're a small business. We maybe don't have all of the pet insurance and the perks and things like that maybe some others
Right.
do. And what we realized is this halo effect of building an organization like that was really all about what we are attracting. Every single person I talk to and ask the first question, why are you interested in Storm Creek? They say, well, your apparel is really cool and that's great, but I have always wanted to work somewhere where I knew I was part of something bigger. I'm very much into sustainability and want a better environment for my kids growing up, as they grow up, and I just can relate to every part of your mission. And so the stat that backs that up is 88% of employees really place a premium and feel like a company with a purpose is what is, on their top top on their list.
Yeah, it's got to be such a differentiator because everybody also is trying to hire your talent too. And so there's, keeping the great people you have as well as bringing the new ones in. And what a great story you have to tell.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing I want to get into, and I know this hasn't always been just a bed of roses as you balance these two things of doing good and doing well. And sometimes they can compete with each other potentially, and other times they're complementary. And so maybe if you could share with our audience maybe some of the challenges that you've had in really bringing this into balance for Storm Creek.
Well, it's interesting because you really have to meet your customers where they're at in terms of what's most important.
Yeah.
And so you don't go out with hi, we're the most sustainably made brand. Hi, we're a purpose-driven brand. Hi, we're whatever. You have to understand first, and that's what we've taught all of our sales team is find out what's most important to them, because we check all these different boxes, and it could even just be like the B Corp certification that we got yesterday,
Right.
and the components that helped us win high marks with employees and how we treat them and what we do in the community. So there's something in our little bag of tricks, from the high quality apparel that lasts longer so it doesn't end up in the landfill. Like, that's the part maybe they didn't even think of. People throw 80 pounds of clothing away every year. And by the way, if your brand is on it and it ends up in the landfill, you just lost your ROI on that shirt you just bought for all of your employees. So there's a nugget in all that we do that can be really tightly woven into what the organization wants. So we don't necessarily just come out and just pick one. But there's what's been really cool is our ability to resonate with something for everyone, so to speak. So we've found if we go too far into one part of the messaging, we lose them, right? So again, it's part of, we have to just take where they're going, and we find the piece of it that relates best. So that's kind of a sales lesson that we learned along the way. And another challenge has been, funny enough, I thought so many people were making apparel sustainably because it's kind of talked about so much.
Right.
And then once you take the layers off, and maybe there's some things you can do that sound like you do that, but you're really not doing it, we committed to going all in. So we committed to having everything be sustainably made. There's only 3% of the apparel companies out there that are doing that. So you have little old Storm Creek that needs everything we're wearing, every fabric, every trim, all of this to have that availability.
Right.
But, oh, by the way, we don't give you $50 million in orders every year. So it's this push-pull of what's available. And we just had 2 factory partners in the office here yesterday. They're bringing their suitcases and suitcases of the different fabrics and amazing things. And we'll have to pass on something if we don't like the conditions under which it's being made, or if it doesn't have a blue sign certification saying it's not using harmful chemicals, or if it doesn't have a recycled component. So quickly those suitcases get whittled down, and maybe even the price goes up. So we're trying to do all this, but still within our more approachably priced model.
Sure. So you mentioned that there's just a very small percentage of apparel companies that are sustainable in the way that you are. So who do you look to, in that world? Because you mentioned, you got your B Corp designation. Congratulations on that. But along with that, you told me, some names of some really large apparel companies. Who do you look to and say, they have it right, and if we could be more like them, or more like, and maybe it's there's a few people that you look to say these are our contemporaries in this space.
Yeah. It's interesting because I can look at who we want to be like in a brand world,
Yeah.
and that's always been led by big outdoor brands. So we've been selling to that outdoor retail market for many, many years, and so we saw where they were going, and they were leading the way. And Patagonia was always known for that, and the traceability of every feather. I mean, just everything that they've done, and then ultimately giving their company away, as you probably know. And they've just done so many things so well. But when they go in looking for something like a certain fabric, if it doesn't exist, they'll be like, we'll make it for you. You're Patagonia, right? So maybe to be exactly like them isn't as realistic, but it's definitely a North Star and a way for us to say we play in that same sandbox. But what we're finding through the more we know is the big ones actually have a harder time committing to doing everything the way we want to do it, because they have a big ship to steer, right?
Right.
So when we said in 2017, we're going to be all eco-made in 3 years, Adidas was saying 2030 for theirs, and others had, their marks further out as well. So taking advantage of what we can do as a smaller company was really nice. Now, in the promotional products industry, there's some North Stars that we've seen there too, and we've followed them But we also have been able to very quickly say we're a leader, we're committed to this. We were the first Blue Sign partner in the industry, but we're the only ones committed to having all of our products Blue Sign certified. That's like the gold standard of producing with clean chemicals and in the most responsible way.
Right.
No one else is doing that, but yet a lot of others are claiming. So you kind of have to know it can be greenwashing if not looked at very clearly, if that makes sense.
Right. It's interesting because I think as any company leader, you look at your business and are we maximizing our potential, and are we growing at the rate that we can sustainably grow at? Are we outstripping our growth rate? You've added in this element of doing good along with doing well. And how do you balance that? And maybe share with our audience a time or two where you've had challenges with that and where you've been tilted one way versus the other, because it can't just be equilibrium all day, every day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it isn't easy. Like I say, there's cost challenges associated with it, but there's also even perception. Like I've had people on the team here feel like, well, if we're giving all that money away, why am I not getting a bigger raise? So you actually have to kind of explain how it works for us. We're an S corp. It's the money is really right. Doug and I giving and foregoing things that maybe some of my contemporaries are taking in terms of what they're taking out of the business, and we're very much into the pay it forward, and we kind of are in it for the long game. And so even just that perception, and so I realized that if they don't know exactly how this all works and what their involvement is in doing this, then that whole reason they came to us because they wanted purpose is kind of null and void.
Right.
So several years ago, we started the Storm Creek Community Fund, and that's all a team here that is whatever's important to them, the places they volunteer, the organizations that they're involved with or that are important to them. That's where we give a percentage of our dollars. So they get to nominate their organization, they get donated goods for their organization, they take time off to volunteer for that, and anything that they need, a silent auction prize for whatever their fundraiser is. And so I found that you really need to bring everybody into it. I mean, we've had days where we're all out there during our busiest time and we're packing up product that people need at the end of the year because they don't have jackets. I'm like, put on the elf hat. We're all going over to the warehouse and we're backing this stuff up. So part of it is maybe what could be a misperception and, both clients and customers. And then obviously costs and different roadblocks associated with that.
But really part of it sounds like just a deeper education understanding for your team here of what this is all about and how it really works.
Exactly. And really, that's the whole thing with EOS, right? How many times do I even have my VTO printed out here in front of us, because how many times do we set it and forget it?
Right.
And so we've been trying to talk about every element of what we're doing on a regular basis. And I feel like, maybe it's the Minnesota thing. I'm like, oh, we shouldn't be bragging about all these things we're doing. But it really is what fuels them and excites them. And so I shouldn't be downplaying it, so to speak. So we really talk about this vision, this 10-year target. I was actually going to read it to you if I could.
Yeah,
because,
please do.
I think it just packs a whole lot. And then it's very different than our first 10-year target when we started running on EOS. So it says, our people-first team built an incredible, sustainably made brand that resulted in a collective impact of 200 million upcycled plastic bottles and $5 million in charitable giving. So there's
the future.
There's the future. Right. So we constantly need to pull that out.
Right. And so for our listeners, the VTO is the Vision Traction Organizer. It's part of the EOS operating system. We've had actually episodes on this podcast about EOS and using it, and I know a lot of Roundtable members do use it, but some do not, so may not be familiar with the terminology. But it's really a way to just capture really every aspect of your business and what you're trying to do in a very succinct form that you can share with your team.
Exactly. Whether on EOS or not, just sharing that vision in a succinct way where people I can get behind that.
Well, and the way you've laid out your 10 years, I think you probably have a lot of people within the four walls of Storm Creek saying, let's go, let's make it happen.
Let's do it.
I want to switch gears to your recent EY nomination and got as a finalist, correct?
We did. We were a Heartland finalist.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It was a big deal.
And it's a really introspective process, though, too, isn't it? To really kind of look back and say, this is the thing we built. And even though you may not have advanced the way you wanted to, you kind of you take a lot of gratification from just being in the process.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first the nomination and then the steps and and everything to get to be a finalist was great. But you hit the nail on the head in terms of how introspective it was. I have never spent time really thinking about why what we're doing is different and just how that makes for a really strong entrepreneurship story, and just the obviously the blood, sweat, and tears and all of that kind of thing, but just really going through that timeline and having to continuously at every step of the judging way tell that story and make it stand out. And it was probably one of the neatest things for Doug and I as a couple to do. And we're actually knocking on our 10-year anniversary being married as well as the business. And so it was probably hit us at just the right time to say, hey, this is why we're doing it. And maybe we are doing something pretty cool, but that renewed sense of this is why we're here.
Well, I think to me, it also gives you, because you're so into it, and everybody you work with every day is into your vision of the company, what you're trying to do. You're bought in, but then to hear a third party that says, hey, this is kind of a cool thing, right? Other people saying, you're doing something really pretty cool that we're interested in.
It's so funny because when they do the final, this filming that we did down at US Bank, they said, what was the first thing that went through your mind when you learned that you won this award to be a finalist? And I literally it took my breath away, because it was that validation. I'm in marketing, so I can spin anything, right? But
Right.
It was such validation from this amazing third party that said, hey, we see a lot of companies out there and you've got something special.
Yeah. It's just an incredible journey for you, and congratulations on
Thank
being
you.
part of that.
Thank you, Scott.
I want to talk now a little bit about your experience with the Roundtable, because I think, that to me, the things you've done, and obviously you've been in the Roundtable how long?
2 years
Okay.
in this one, and I've been in others, and
Yeah.
not just to say, but this one is magical.
Okay. Well, and I always ask our guests, as you've built relationships with your Roundtable, and you start to really open up, hey, these are the things I'm dealing with. These are the aspects I need help with. For you personally, as you've worked with your group, what's been the biggest decision that they've helped you with? And if you could maybe just give us that scenario and how it changed, your thought on that decision.
Well, I would say I don't have a one decision, but I
Yeah.
have a decision that theme. How
Okay.
about that?
Good.
And, I looked back at all my number fours before we got together today.
Yeah.
Which I still don't know why they call it that, but I love it. And I feel like almost all my number fours have been related to getting the people part right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been something that is just the toughest thing, I think, as a business owner, especially when you have a small group. It's kind of a unique group, right?
Right.
And so as we put our plans together for the year in our offsites, I continue to hear the same feedback. This is a great plan, Teresa. You guys are going you guys have nothing but up. You're just on such a growth trajectory. If you don't have the right leadership team there, this is never going to happen.
Right.
So they're like, you might as well rip this up if we don't talk candidly about what that means. And so that reoccurring theme is usually where they help and guide me and understand where to keep the bar where it needs to be, and to really understand our PRS, right people, right seats, in a way that is different than just anything garden variety. It's like, if you're going to do this and you're going to achieve this vision, that leadership team underneath you and underneath Doug needs to be at this level. We get super specific about that, and when it works and when it doesn't, and when you need more patience and all those things.
Right.
So that has been probably the biggest decision theme around it, and they've been unwavering in their consistency on how to help navigate through that. And it obviously is a confidential place that I can be comfortable in.
Right. Well, and I think for someone like yourself and your husband, and as you're trying to grow and build this business, that getting that next layer of leadership behind you, really being able to build that vision out, is super critical, right?
Absolutely.
And I've always found that the smaller the company, the harder it is to make those people decisions, because you're closer, right?
For sure. We're
Yeah.
a family here, and
Yeah.
and we do a lot of obviously slow to hire and all of those things that you're supposed to do. But
Right.
but yeah, I just feel personally responsible to be the best leader and manager that I can, and probably to a fault. Maybe that even keeps me too close to the situation.
Yeah. But to your credit, I think you're asking the right questions of your roundtable. Here's what I'm thinking about, and I think it sounds like their feedback and support for you has been incredible. So
Yeah, and I know all the groups are great. I'm very, very thankful for my group. I mean, we all, I think, get really emotional with each other about how thankful that we are. It is such a blessing to have that, and I honestly don't know how people survive without it. I couldn't live without it.
Well, now I'm going to ask you 3 questions that I ask all my guests. This is the fun part, though, where the audience gets to learn a little bit more about you. So, what is your favorite movie?
Well, I had several, but I'm just going to say I'm a huge Cameron Diaz fan, so I love The Holiday. But that's second to American President. So I'm obviously this huge, romanticist.
Right.
It's everything non-stressful.
Something to escape, right?
Yeah, I'm a total escapism with my movies. So it's no blood and guts, please.
What are you reading now?
Well, I reread my EOS books a lot, and I just reread the data book that is new because I didn't love our scorecards. Why is it that we can overcomplicate things so quickly? And now I'm rereading the people book because I love all the traction books, and not for a pitch for them by any means. It's just that simplicity eludes us quickly,
right?
And when we're in Mach 1 speed here, and I just need these grounding simplification reminders.
I think in my history with EOS, the scorecard has been something that just continues to evolve for companies because you've got your however many, let's call it 12 points of data that you're looking at every week, and you go, that one's been read for the last 6 weeks, and we haven't done anything about it. Do we even care about that, right?
Right. And it is so funny that there are some blinding flashes of the obvious when you reread these, but I'd like to keep it simple, and that's what helped get us through a tremendous amount of challenges. Yeah. So I'm true to that.
Well, now this last question is always my favorite because it is very revealing on people's musical taste, right? So what is your bucket list concert?
Oh, I know it. I'm going to answer this wrong, too, I suppose, because
there's no wrong answer on these.
You know where my mind went right away? I love music, but I'm about the venue. So I've got a venue bucket list.
Yeah.
And so we did like the Santa Barbara Bowl, we've done the Sphere, and we've done the Red Rock. But the one that I haven't done that I want to do is Mountain View Winery. Are you familiar with that one?
I'm not.
Saratoga, California. So it's like the old Paul Masson winery, and it's another bowl built in, and it's the coolest venue. And literally, if you Rock and Roll's finest have been there over the years, and now it may or may not be the big hitters, but they have a concert series, and that's where I want to be because I want to get back. I want to go to that bowl.
Well, the venue tour is something that's new to our show, and I appreciate you bringing it on. That's good stuff. I'm sure there'll be future guests that go, hey, I'm about the venue, so thank you.
No problem.
Well, Teresa, this has been fantastic, and I think there's so much more we could talk about, too, in terms of your business and what you've done with Storm Creek, but really just congratulations on the business you've built, and thanks for being a guest today.
Oh, thanks for asking, Scott. I'm humbled.
Thank you for listening to the CEO to CEO podcast, produced by Dave Swerdlick and the incredible team at Uptown Podcast Studios. You can find them at uptownpodcast.com. Be certain to subscribe so you don't miss an episode with more CEO wisdom highlighting experience and insights from the trenches. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review and share with others. If you are a Minnesota-based business leader who would like to learn more about being part of a peer advisory roundtable, check us out at ceo-roundtable.org.